The 2023 NPB season is underway. It all started on Thursday, March 30th at the brand new S-Con Field, the new home of the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters, as they took on the visiting Rakuten Eagles. The other 10 teams take the field one day later on the 31st. Normally I do a preview of Central and Pacific League separately. I name all the good hitters and pitchers from the year before and all the off-season losses and additions with accompanying pictures. That takes some time to put together, but it's been way too busy here lately, so instead I'm just putting out a predictions video for all of NPB here today. Just where I think they'll finish in the standings and about a 30-second explanation for each team. Whether you agree or disagree, leave a comment explaining why. What's your prediction for the final standings? Who's going to win the Japan Series? And though I'm not including mine here today, if you have any guess as to who's going to win the MVP, Sawamura, or Rookie of the Year awards, comment on that too. Alright, Central League first, starting from the bottom. In 6th place I've got the Hiroshima Carp. Last year they were 5th, just a half game from the cellar, and they didn't really make any changes, bringing back pretty much the same team and expecting a different result. Their ace, Masato Morishita, was Rookie of the Year in 2020 with a 1.91 ERA. A year later it was 2.98, last year 3.17. Not a good trend. Don't expect anything great from the rest of the rotation either. Daichi Osera's coming off a bad year. Aren Kuri's alright, but that's it. Good closer in Ryoji Kurubayashi, but the rest of their bullpen doesn't look so good. Hitting is okay, but players like Shogo Akiyama and Ryosuke Kikuchi are going to see further declines in their hitting, with no one to step in to make up for it. Almost a last-place team a year ago, they will be last this year. 5th place, Chunichi Dragons. Last place in 2022, but they did make some improvements. Hitting, specifically a lack of power, has been their problem for years. Dayan Viciedo led the team with just 14 home runs last year. He's back. And they've brought in Aristides Aquino. Last year with the Cincinnati Reds he hit 10 home runs in half a season. Easy to believe he can turn that into 20 or more in a full NPB season. Also brought back Zoilo Almonte, who's got some power. I don't think those additions will give a huge boost to the offense, but they will win more games because of it. Pitching was never a problem. It's always been good and will continue to be. Rotation is one of the best in NPB. Yudai Ono, Yuya Yanagi, Shinosuke Ogasawara, Hiroto Takahashi. And it gets a little better with the addition of Hideaki Wakui, though he is getting old. The bullpen took a big hit just the other day when Yariel Rodriguez defected. That one hurts, but the bullpen is still strong, led by Rydell Martinez. Number 4, Hanshin Tigers, 3rd place in 2022, made the postseason, but they were 12 games out of first and only 3 games ahead of the last place Dragons. Big turnaround after a horrific start to the season. They swapped out all their foreign players this offseason. Never know how that's going to turn out. Central League's best base-stealing team with Takumu Nakano and Koji Chikamoto taking care of that. Some guys with power like Teruaki Sato and Yusuke Oyama. But overall not a good team offensively, and no reason to think that's going to change this year. Best pitching in Central League last year, Koyo Aoyagi was the ERA king. Yuki Nishi and Masashi Ito are 2 other good starters. Bullpen's good, especially Atsuki Yuasa. A lot of reasons to be positive about this team going in. But when I look at Hanshin, I see an average team that played just a little better than the other 3 Central League teams last year. They managed to get into the postseason not because of how well they were playing, but because of how bad the other 3 were playing at the end of the season. 3rd place, Yomiuri Giants. They missed the last postseason spot by only a half game, so they needed just a little boost to get them back to the top 3. The only real change they made as far as hitting is getting rid of Gregory Polanco and bringing in Lewis Brinson. Don't know if that's going to be a positive or negative change. Probably doesn't mean much. But hitting wasn't a problem last year. They've got Okamoto, Sakamoto, Maru, Walker, and Nakata all coming back. Should be a good hitting team again. Pitching was their problem, but we should see some big improvements. Shosei Togo has become the ace of this team. He's only going to get better. Sugano is no longer the dominant pitcher he once was, but still a reliable number 2 starter. A lot of young pitchers on their staff that are going to step it up, like starting pitcher Iori Yamasaki, Taisei, the team's closer and Rookie of the Year last year. CC Mercedes is gone. He's been replaced by Tyler Beatty. They got rid of a couple underperforming foreign relievers and replaced them. Like with any foreign replacement, we don't know how it's going to work out, but I'd guess at least one of them will have a positive impact. So I see a team here with the same good hitting as last year and improved pitching. Not a title contender, but the changes are enough to lift them back into the postseason. Number 2, the 2-time defending Central League champion Swallows. Highest scoring team in 2022 and will be once again in 2023. That, of course, was led by Munetaka Murakami with his 56 home runs last season. I'd expect him to hit somewhere in the upper 30s or lower 40s in home runs this year. That's usually what happens a year after someone hits over 50. The rest of the big hitters are back too: Shiomi, Yamada, Santana, Osuna. The drop in Murakami's production will lead to a little drop in the team's overall production, but still the best hitting team in Central League. The rotation is not so good. They'll rely on Keiji Takahashi, Yasuhiro Ogawa, and Cy Snead as their top starting pitchers. The rotation was the team's biggest weakness a year ago, and it will be again this year. The bullpen was good, but they lost a big piece of that when Scott McGuff left the team and went back to MLB. They brought in 3 new foreign pitchers, but can one of them step up and fill his shoes? My guess would be no, not quite. So this team had bad pitching last year and made up for it with superior hitting. This year I predict the pitching gets a little worse and the hitting is not quite as good. With the way they were playing in the second half of last season, we were starting to doubt if they were still the best team in Central League. A little drop in the offense and the pitching will be enough to dethrone them. Number 1, the Yokohama DNA Baystars. Second place in 2022, but nowhere near the top. 8 games behind the Swallows. All the best hitters are back. Shugo Maki, Keita Sano, Toshiro Miyazaki, Neftali Soto. Tyler Austin is back. If he can get out there and put up numbers like he did in 2021 without getting injured, that would be a huge boost to the offense. But given his history, I wouldn't count on it. Still, even without Austin, this should be one of the best hitting teams in Central League. Pitching was pretty good last year, led by one of Central League's best starting pitchers, Shota Imanaga, and another good starter in Shinichi Onuki. Add to that the signing of Trevor Bauer, one of MLB's best pitchers just a few years ago. He was having another good season with the Dodgers in 2021, but we all know the story. He hasn't pitched in almost 2 years, but I'm sure he's still got it. He won't be the best pitcher in Central League, but together with Imanaga and Onuki, the Baystars might have the best rotation. Bullpen's good. Yasuaki Yamasaki had a comeback year in 2022. Expect that to continue this season. Now to Pacific League. Number 6, for the second year in a row, the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters. Not only were they last in 2022, they were 9 games behind the 5th place team. So it will take a big improvement to lift them out of the basement. There are reasons to be optimistic about the Fighters. A good young starting pitcher in Hiromi Ito, who's only going to get better. Another good starting pitcher in Takayuki Kato. Go Matsumoto batted .347 last year. They've got some other good young hitters that should be ready to break out soon. But they'll be trying to make up for the loss of Kensuke Kondo, who was by far the team's best hitter last year. I do think this team will be better than they were a year ago, but it was 9 games between the Fighters and the number 5 team last year. They'll close the gap a little, but it looks like one more last place finish before they make a run for the postseason in 2024. Number 5, Seibu Lions, a postseason team last year. 3rd place and only 3.5 games out of 1st. Lowest team ERA and all the best pitchers are back. Kona Takahashi is the leader of the rotation. Wataru Matsumoto is another good one. Yoshinobu Mizukami, a very reliable arm in the bullpen. The big difference in pitching this year will be Kai Mataira's switch from reliever to starting pitcher. I think he can do it, but it's going to be an adjustment season. He'll have a little trouble in the new role. In the short term, it would be better to keep him in the bullpen, but looking beyond this season, it'll be good for the team. They were the lowest scoring team last year despite hitting the most home runs. Hotaka Yamakawa led Pacific League with 41 homers in 2022. Expect a drop into the low 30s this year. And the biggest loss this offseason was catcher Tomoya Mori leaving the team, the best hitting catcher in Pacific League. That's a big loss for the team's hitting, and they didn't sign anyone that's going to make up for that loss. I think this team will still be competitive, still close to a postseason spot, but no longer a top 3 team. Number 4, the Rakuten Eagles, second highest scoring team in Pacific League last year, but with the highest team ERA. Expect more of that this season. For pitching, they lost Wakui, but for hitting, they got a small gain with Toshiki Abe joining the team. Michael Franco may be a good addition too. And of course, Hideto Asamura and Hiroaki Shimauchi are back. The rotation is alright, but Masahiro Tanaka, Takayuki Kishi, and Takahiro Norimoto are all getting pretty old. Don't expect any improvement there. The bullpen's got problems too. The pitching won't be terrible, and yes, the hitting will be good, but this looks like a team that just misses the postseason. Number 3, the Chibalote Marines. This team's made some improvements. Gone are foreign hitters Brandon Laird and Leonis Martin after struggling last season. They've brought in Gregory Polanco, who hit 24 home runs with the Giants last year. They lost a good reliever from last season, Roberto Osuna, but signed Hirokazu Sawamura. He had a sub-4 ERA with the Red Sox last summer. Should be a good addition to the Marines' bullpen. And they signed CC Mercedes, a proven NPB starting pitcher with the Giants the last several years. The best in the rotation is, of course, Roki Sasaki. He made 20 starts last year. Expect him to start more games this year as they have more confidence in putting him out there week after week. This was an average team last year for pitching and hitting. I see a little improvement in both areas, just enough to get them to the postseason. Number 2, the SoftBank Hawks, and I know most people are probably picking them to finish first. There are many reasons to. They tied for the Pacific League title last year. Then in the offseason they signed one of Pacific League's best hitters, Kensuke Kondo, one of the best relievers, Roberto Osuna, and Joe Gunkel, a proven NPB starting pitcher with Hanshin. Gunkel makes up for the loss of Colin Ray, but does not make up for the loss of Kodai Senga. The two Cuban hitters, Gracial and Despaigne, are no longer with the team. Both had an on-base percentage around .340 last year. Despaigne hit 14 home runs. Kondo should be able to more than make up for those departures, but I can also see him having to make up for a further decline from Yuki Yanagita. Yanagita skipped the WBC because he's coming off a down season, and he wants to get back where he was a few years ago. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think his numbers slowly get worse from here. Still a good hitter, though, and this is a good hitting team, and Osuna makes the bullpen better. Having him and Levan Moanello pitching one inning after another in relief is not what any team wants to face. Number 1, the defending Japan Series champions, the Oryx Buffaloes. They've got the best 1-2 punch with Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Hiroya Miyagi. I think Miyagi's going to be better, get back to his 2021 rookie numbers. And Yamamoto will win another pitcher's triple crown. I have no reason to believe he'll slow down this year. Jacob Waguespack, Yoshihisa Hirano, and Yuki Udagawa lead an impressive rotation. The pitching has not changed at all, and could be even better. The best hitter in Pacific League last year, Masataka Yoshida, left the team during the offseason to sign with the Red Sox. But they got a big upgrade at catcher with the signing of Tomi Amori. Does it make up for Yoshida's departure? No, but it helps. And their luck has got to change with foreign hitters. They've been really unlucky the last few years as foreign hitters just don't perform well with the Buffaloes. That should change this year with Frank Schwindel coming in. Another possible offensive boost could come from Yutaro Sugimoto. He hit 32 home runs 2 years ago, but only 15 last year. If he can rebound, Schwindel lives up to expectations, and Mori doesn't miss a beat, the Buffaloes can have just as good hitting as they did a year ago, maybe even better. I don't know if all those things will happen for them, but they will be good enough to win another Pacific League pennant. Anyway, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think down in the comments. That's all for this one, and until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.